I look small, but believe me, you are in safe hands. I've been in academics for almost 22 years, and I have a 22-year-old daughter. So sometimes they say looks are deceptive. So I am a Jeeta Jagta Udharan. I am a live example of the same. I live marketing. That's the blue blood which flows in me. And while I was landing, so I came in the morning and I have to take a night flight. Right now, I think, one of the important persons in the institute where I teach, because I also had placement, and I saw some of the gentlemen before during the round table, they were talking about skilling. So one of the skill which I saw and which I observed since last 4 days, I was trying to find out any news about STATECON 2024 CREDAI Telangana, and I was trying to look at Twitter, LinkedIn, and everywhere. And believe me, sorry to say, I did not see a lot of news or lot of content around it. So when we talk about marketing, I think the most important strategy is creating a brand. And believe me, the most important strategy is people know about you. There is a talk about you, and on the top of it, it's very important that there is organic content. I saw State Bank of India, I saw Kone, I saw big brands who have set up their canopies outside in the lobby. Very important that when we are doing this, I didn't see the most important thing which everybody uses today is something called as a hashtag. So had it been that everybody would have been told in this room that while you are putting a canopy and you put, let's say, a small story or a line about what's happening here during the day with the Chief Minister and some of the very senior bureaucrats visiting, how do you take leverage of that? Because when you associate with somebody big and you use the same hashtag everywhere, automatically your content, organic content comes up, and you will appear in many searches. So it's not just the game that you buy out your searches, but it's also about creating very, very organic stuff so that it is right there, it is visible, and when people Google, you are there in the first page. And I'm sure आप लोग भी जब देखेंगे, whenever you are searching on Google, we hardly go beyond page 1. We don't have that kind of patience that we go and search beyond page 1. So to be on page 1, that too in the top 5, 6, or 8 searches, it takes a lot of content to be developed. So let me not make it very boring, and I will narrate a small story of my house hunting. And let's see, I will invite some of the answers from the audience. So me and my husband, we were buying a second house. So we initially lived in Delhi, and I work in Gurugram, he works in Delhi. By the time my daughter completed her class 12th, we decided now let's move to Gurgaon because I have traveled enough. Now it's his turn to travel. So we started looking for a house initially in Dwarka, then we went to Expressway, and then we finally moved to Gurgaon, because what we were looking for as a couple who had 18, 19-year-old daughter was not the first house. So my requirement, my need was very clear. And you would see that each one of you who are into development, it is very important that you brand your project very clearly for what kind of customer. Is it the location which you are selling? Is it the living which you are selling? Is it the comfort which you are selling? Very important. Where do you position your brand as well as the offering in terms of the project? We look at definition, we look at the governance, execution, and finally the evaluation. So let's look at the definition. Very important. For whom are you trying to create this brand? So as I said, me and my husband, we started this house hunting, and believe me, it took almost 5 months. All the weekends were totally ruined because we would start on Sunday, and my husband, being a doctor, worked 6 days a week. So for him, it was only Sunday, and he screamed a lot. So we decided, okay, alternate Sunday we will go. So every alternate Sunday, we would go to Gurgaon and we would see 3 to 4 projects. There was not even a single project which we had not seen. We zeroed down to 2 projects. I'll not disclose the brand name. But both the offerings were very different. One had a super luxury, premium kind of club, gym, all kind of facilities. The other one had a club, had gym, had all the facilities, but they were not super premium. They were like, the services are there, they are neat and clean, but not like premium, not like 5-star. The other one was 5-star facility. This was okay. When we looked at our budget, I realized the 5-star project, one was able to get a 3 BHK, and in this other facility, we were able to afford a 4 BHK. So there is a, loss of 1 bedroom. For men, it might not make a lot of difference, but for women who has to arrange when your guests come in, because we live in India and we have relatives, and when you have relatives, you don't ask them to stay in a hotel. You ask them, and that's why people buy home, people buy a house. So we started talking, and he said, let's compromise on 1 bedroom and buy a house here. I thought a lot. I said, okay, let me think and I will get back to you. So I took almost 2-3 days, and then I went to him. I said, I don't want to live there. He said, but why? I said, I realized while we were having a visit in the place, because I'm sure most of the customers, they would like to come and have a project visit. It was already habited. There were almost 50% people who had taken possession, they were living. I realized out of that 50%, almost 40% were from business class, and they were in, most of the cars which I saw, almost 80-90% were premium cars. And people who know about Delhi NCR, the first thing when money comes in, people buy luxury cars. And that's their branding. So I was really kind of taken aback, and I just made one simple statement to my husband. I said, I don't want to live in this 5-star facility and feel garib every day. Wake up with this feeling that I am the most, garib person around, because I drive a Honda City. We have a, Innova Cresta, so this is not making any good sense. And I think something happened to me, to him, and he said, points to theek hai. I said, and on the cake, icing of the cake was that you are also losing a bedroom. So he said, okay, we bought the other property where, which was again luxury but not 5-star. So it was premium, and both are very well-known brand in Gurugram and that area. It's been now 5 years been shifted there, and the living has been much better. Now, where the branding comes in. So 3 days back, our next door neighbors, they came back from Dubai, and they shifted as in a rented apartment. So it's the friends who own the apartment, they have rented it out to them. And they came and they said hello, that we have just moved in. They made introduction. And then they said, we moved from XYZ apartment. And it was the same 5-star luxury apartment. And they had a son who was 11-year-old, going to an international school. And they made one very powerful statement. They said, the only thing, we can afford the rental there as well. The rentals are almost comparable. It's 10,000-15,000 difference, which is not a huge difference. The only thing which we realized that kids there are not very well-behaved. They bully other kids, they misbehave with elders, And that's what the positioning was. And imagine there is no fault of the builder here. But somewhere down the line, your project gets this kind of branding in the public space. My question is, do you have any control over it? Both no and yes. Can we do, and that brings back to us on the first question, where are we positioning our project? When I position it, that this is something which is a comfortable family living for families in that area, we position our project, we position a house, and that's what we sell. That's what we want to create a positioning around. So it's very important that maybe you select who can buy, which means, and this is exactly what a lot of countries and a lot of high-end builders have started doing. You are making a project, and when you position it, you kind of give an invitation. You don't let everybody buy your project. So it's almost like you need a recommendation, you need an invitation, because that kind of give you a guarantee who's going to live in that project. Now, these people who live there becomes your advocate, and they will help you to make your brand. If they go out and they say that the gentry is not very good here, they are not very well-behaved, not very professional people live there. So if this is the kind of word of mouth, then possibly your whole positioning and branding will go for a toss. So that is where, and I thought there is a lot of gyan here, but it was very important to connect with some stories like this, because I'm sure whenever your customers are coming to you and they want to buy their dream home, so-called, whether it is first or second, because sometimes if you buy your first home very early, you kind of grow out of that home because you grow in your career, and then that address no more defines you. So people look for a second house. And when we look for a second house, you are looking for not just one thing, but many things. So I'll just skip. When it comes to governance, these are some of the key points. And I saw even during the roundtable, some of these were very, very, very well addressed. We look at infrastructure development. So when a customer is buying, he would definitely look for what's happening in terms of power, what's happening when it comes to irrigation. We have seen how Bangalore, nobody wants to invest until unless you are really hell-bent and you have to live there and your job is there and you have no other choice. So nobody is buying for investment anymore in Bangalore because of water and some of these issues. So power, irrigation, industrial development, these becomes. Second is tech development, and then healthcare development. Now, wherever people want to live or move, they look at what kind of healthcare development has taken place in that area. And we see both Andhra Pradesh as well as Telangana, when it comes to healthcare, the pharmacity and all of this, there is huge development, and that's what is working very positively for the state. Fourth is sustainability, that is, people look at, is there some kind of solar energy which is being used, some reusable projects, green cover, etc. And lastly, the smart city status, which is extremely important, and a lot of projects sell because you have at least these must-haves when it comes to a project. The third pillar is about execution, and which is when we buy a house, the way a jewelry is for a woman, very attached, very emotional about it, same is a house, not just for the couple, but the whole family. So there is a lot of cultural association in terms of the execution and branding around it. So some of the strategies which we can adopt is social media strategies. We see now there is a huge anti-investment to real estate which is going around. There are a lot of influencers who are there who create videos, and they discourage going forward that real real estate is not a very good investment. Better investment is into stocks, mutual funds, like that. So it's very important that high time CREDAI and associations of developers have to start looking at these content and create a counter content. You can't sit quietly, and hence it is very important that you create that counter content where you use those pillars in terms of sustainability and reuse and all of that. We can look at influencer partnerships and some kind of user-generated content, because the more is the organic content around your brand, around what you are offering, it will come in many searches on the top. So as I said, these are some of the counter strategies which we can implement. The narrative has to change. We see now there is subliminal consumption among millennials and Gen Z. They live in a Uber world. They don't want to own a car. They don't want to own a house. They look at more of experiential kind of investments. They would like to invest in travel. They would like to invest in other experiences, but not assets like house. So there has to be a counter narrative which needs to be developed, and it should be put as a very organic content in the public domain. So going forward, when we talk about Indian society, we are more of a collectivism culture. So very important when we are creating this kind of content, it should also be around collectivism with some kind of individualism, where today, if there is an earning youngster for all kind of financial investment, they would still look up to their father. They would still go and kind of discuss it for those kind of important decisions. So that is where we would embrace the individuality of the youth, but at the same point of time, we also look at the collectivism. We need to tailor the kind of message which we are sending across. We need to balance out the kind of compelling narrative which we are trying to create here. We need to highlight the long-term benefits of real estate and the investment of the same, right? It's not just that it is an investment, but at the same point of time, you consume your home, you live in that home, and at the same point of time, you create memories, and it is an investment as well. There is no other product which does this. But are we doing that kind of branding, and are we positioning a product like home around this, where we are saying that the narrative is around use and invest at the same point of time? That narrative do not exist right now. We need to have more targeted campaigns, which is around Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. We see a lot of virtual videos, and if there is a project, then you do a project video, which is available on YouTube, but that's a very static kind of video. It doesn't talk to you. When we say organic content, which is creating a narrative should be where you include some of the people who have possibly bought a house there. What was the feeling? Why did they buy? So those questions and those narratives need to be brought in the center of the whole conversation going forward. We need to, very important aspect, which is transparency and authenticity. Yes, we have from the governance side RERA, which exists, and most developers do advertise saying it is RERA approved, and this is the RERA number, application number, and all of that. But it is very important that you set the expectations right for your customer. You need to understand whether they want a house which they immediately want to move in, or they are looking for an investment wherein they would like to move in down the line 4 or 5 years. That transparency and authenticity is extremely important in this narrative. Lastly, we look at video marketing and virtual tours, where you can have drone footage which can actually show properties and the neighborhood area, because sometimes you have a video on internet which is only about the property, but it doesn't give a customer or a prospective customer any idea what the neighborhood looks like, what is the road development, what are the other development which is taking place around that area. So very important if we can use some kind of 360-degree virtual property tours and drone footage which can be included to have a real-time expectation from a customer's side. So all I can say is brand equity is a bridge, which is like a strong relationship. It works like a relationship between the seller and the buyer. So we need to look at the reflection of past investment as far as your brand is concerned. And then we also look at what is the future direction when it comes to some of these marketing programs. We did hear the mention of AI. We can look at, we need to leverage AI where we can look at the forecast that how it looks like going forward in a particular area, depending on the age cohort of that state and the percentage of people who are willing to buy. So these are some of the salient dimensions where we look at the depth and the breadth of both brand awareness, whether people know about you. If they know about you, is it the kind of knowing which you want them to know in terms of the narrative? Or do you want to change the narrative? Once you know that they don't know the right thing about you, it's high time we change the narrative. Okay. So my time is almost over. This is the last slide I would like you to be left with in terms of imagery dimension. So very important, when we are creating content, we create that kind of imagery. When it comes to history, heritage, experiences, what is that where the customer can connect with the Indian heritage, some kind of family and state-related nostalgia when the narrative of your product, of your project comes in the limelight, comes in the center as far as internet is concerned. So that will be all from my side. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure interacting. Thank you.